Hey there, I'm Juan Francisco, and I'm a psychic medium. I'm here with you to explore your intuition, the supernatural, and self-empowerment. This is Third Eyesight. Hello to a new week on Third Eyesight, and it's been still getting warmer in New York City, and I'm still very happy about it. I feel like a broken record, but I'm just loving this warm weather so much. It is really, I think it's helping to lift my mood a little bit. And it's nice to just be outside and go for a run, get a little bit of a tan as a wonderful side effect, wearing sunscreen, of course. And I don't know, I'm ready for the summer. I'm ready to be out and about in the summer. So today I want to talk about different blockages to practicing your psychic ability, or really tapping into your psychic abilities, whether it's doing a card reading, it's channeling, mediumship, whatever it might be. And these are based on my own journey and what I've learned as a psychic medium. I'm going to go through 3 things that could be blocking your ability to tap into your psychic intuition. Number 1, having a very dogmatic approach to this work, this practice. Number 2, just wanting to impress and having that be the goal. And to awe people, that is something we'll delve into for number 2. Number 3, maybe not working on your self-confidence, your self-esteem, and believing in yourself. So we're going to go through these three possible reasons you are not tapping fully into your psychic ability and intuition. So let's start with number 1, having a dogmatic approach to this work, to this practice. What I mean by dogmatic approach is having very strict rules around how it works. I believe that the only rule you should have is the rule of doing everything in the white light, doing everything with positive intention and good, not doing something to cause harm to someone else or to wish harm on somebody else. That's the only rule that I believe should exist when you are tapping into your intuition and working as a psychic. Other examples of dogmatic approaches, I'm going to share one personal example that may shock some people, may surprise some people, and may be a no-no for many people, but it's what's working for me. When I first started doing readings, I would meditate for 10-15 minutes before every reading. And even my own mentor told me I must meditate every day. It's just, you have to meditate. And I respect anyone who does meditate. It takes a lot of discipline. But these days, I barely meditate. And I barely meditate before readings. And my readings are still great, if not better. And not better because I've just stopped meditating. They're better for other reasons too. We'll go into them. The reasons number 2 and 3 that we're going to get into this podcast, are probably huge factors as to why my readings have gotten stronger. But meditating or not meditating for me has not made a difference in that. Meditation does help. It does help. But what I do now is before reading, I will sit for 2 minutes, maybe 1 minute, and breathe in through my nose, out my mouth 3 times, 4 or 5 times maybe. And I'll just thank Spirit for being there, and I'll do the reading. And it's been great. When I feel like I've had some of the most trouble channeling in a reading, sometimes it's been because before the reading I have really forced myself to meditate, even though I didn't want to. It didn't feel right. And I told myself, by meditating, I will have a better reading, which is not true, my opinion. I think meditation could help us be a clearer channel for a reading. But when you are so used to doing readings and so used to doing this work and it feels like second nature, I think meditation is there to help us tap into this. But when we feel like we can just tap in whenever we want to, it becomes more easy to tap in, period. And so I stopped meditating before readings. Now, do I wish I could meditate? Do I want to meditate? Yes, I do want to meditate. And that's just a fact of, or it's a matter of me really just setting time aside to meditate because it sounds lovely. It sounds great. But also the fact of the matter is I've had strong, beautiful, positive moments with clients and readings, and they're readings that occurred after not meditating for 10, 15 minutes. And I think that by having a mindset before a reading of, I have to meditate for this reading to be good, to land, I was putting myself in I was having a very limited mindset going into a reading, preparing for a reading. I was limiting myself. I know spirit is always there. I don't have to try to feel spirit. I just have to let go and tap in. Spirit is there, period. It's not about reaching for spirit, in my opinion. It's already there. They're always present. And so by forcing myself to meditate when it didn't feel right or I didn't feel like it before reading, I was trying to convince myself that this is the only way I'm going to tap into spirit. But that's not true. You can tap into spirit anytime. So instead of having a dogmatic approach or having a very prescriptive approach to tapping into your psychic abilities, maybe explore what works for you, what feels right for you. And if that helps you tap in a way that feels safe and positive, go with that. Whatever it is, whatever that thing is. I do think that having a dogmatic approach to this work, to this practice, can really place us in, I'll say it again, it could really feel limiting. And I've said this before in other podcasts. I am not a religious person. I grew up Roman Catholic and I became very religious for quite a few years in my late adolescence, early college years. And that really didn't work for me. It did in some ways. It helped me keep a practice. It helped me keep up, it helped me live my faith through my practice in a very disciplined way. But I also wasn't very happy. I wasn't happy being who I am, who I was. And I found out that I just need to explore what works for me. So do the same for yourself. There's a reason this stuff is not tied to a religion, usually, this psychic stuff. It's for you to determine what works best for you and helps you feel most bliss and most yourself. So number one is having a dogmatic approach to this, being a reason that maybe you're blocking yourself from your psychic abilities. Number two, another reason perhaps that you're blocking yourself from accessing your psychic intuition is you're just wanting to impress people. If you're doing readings for other people, or for yourself even, if you go in thinking, I want to have a wow moment, I want to shock the other person or shock myself, you're setting yourself up for some disappointment. Because sometimes the most moving, powerful messages can come in the most quiet way. They can be subtle. They can be big, but they can sometimes be subtle too. And also, by wanting to impress, we are focusing so much on receiving some kind of praise, some kind of reaction that makes us feel good. And that's not what the client is there for. That's not what a reading is there for. It's wonderful when those moments happen. It's wonderful when even we're walking down the street and we get a sign and we're like, wow, that's amazing. But even if you're familiar with seeing and receiving signs from the other side, that some signs are more subtle than others and are not so, oh my God. And that doesn't lessen the value of those signs just because they're more subtle. So in a reading, when you're doing a reading for somebody or even for yourself, if you're going into it just wanting to impress, wanting to shock, then you're just focusing on what your ego wants, which is the validation, the compliments. I'll repeat the validation, feeling valid in what you're doing. But that's not the point of a reading. That's not the point of tapping into your psychic intuition. The point is to help with personal evolution and growth, whether it's the client's growth and healing or your own. If you're just wanting to impress, you're doing it for a reason that's not very, very conducive to what a reading is supposed to do, to what your intuition is supposed to do for you. It's supposed to help you move forward. It's supposed to help somebody else maybe reveal some answers for themselves, reveal a path forward for themselves. When you're just wanting to impress people with your abilities, it's just not the right intention, in my opinion. So when you go into readings, when you're doing a reading for someone else or for yourself, set the intention, an intention that has nothing to do with feeling good enough, feeling praised, feeling validated, but has everything to do. Wait, let me pause for a second. If your reading is about like, hey, spirit, or hey, I'm doing my tarot cards, hey, spirit, how can I feel more valid within myself? That's different. Now we're getting a little bit meta here, right? But if you're going to do a reading because you want to grow, you want to evolve, you want to learn more about yourself, you want your client to help learn more about themselves, help them love themselves more, that intention is going to set a tone for you that is going to be, it will be nothing but beautiful. For you, at least. Depends on how the client receives it. Because maybe a client wants the wow moments. I think it's also important, if you're working as a psychic or just doing readings for people, to tell them, advise them, just be open. I ask you to just be open, because you may hear things you may not want to hear, or you may hear things that are more subtle messages but are just as important for you to hear. So be open. And while we're asking a client to do that, we should also ask ourselves to do that, to be open to whatever comes through. Not be in the ego and just want to be validated for the technique we're doing, for how we're saying things, or how we're reading the person. So number two reason you may be feeling blocked from your psychic abilities is that you just want to impress people. You want to shock and awe people, when that's not really the intention we should be having in a reading. Number 3 reason for a blockage: your self-confidence, your self-esteem. This involves quite a journey. It's easier said than done. Between the time that, or let me rephrase that. In 2023 was when I really understood that the way I see myself and like myself can greatly affect how I interpret messages in a reading, or how I convey messages in a reading. Now, before anyone gets annoyed with me, I'm not saying you have to love yourself to give a great psychic reading. What I'm saying is, when you love yourself, when you have confidence in yourself, the readings feel a little bit different. I'll explain from my POV. Before I learned the intention that I should have going into a reading, I used my readings of clients, my psychic development, as a way to escape from my problems, as a way to escape from myself. I didn't like myself. And not gonna lie, I still struggle with that some days. Some days I wake up like, I don't really like myself today, but I keep going. And it's way less, that voice is way less pronounced than it used to be. So I've worked hard on that. But before I really started working hard on that, I would use psychic development and this work with the other side in mediumship as a way to put myself aside, to ignore me, and just be a blank, clean slate channel for spirit. Or use those moments of clients and with people receiving my readings and mediumship circle, etc., as moments for me to get out of my life and be in that moment so I can feel something good. But then I realized through my work with a mentor that, wait, no. I am the channel. I am the vase holding spirit's flowers. That vase has to be cared for, has to be appreciated. It is holding the flowers. It is holding the messages. It is holding the symbols that are coming through. I can't just focus on the flowers and pretend there isn't a vase there. And so I learned also that the more that I face myself and the more that I face my inner demons and the more that I love myself despite the trauma that I've been through in life, the more comfortable I am being me in a reading and not using a reading to separate a part of me from who I am, from my life. It's not about using this work, this psychic development work and practice. It's not about using it to forget. It's not supposed to be an upper, a mood lifter. Now, sure, it can lift our moods. Absolutely, it can happen. But again, it all comes down to intention. If we go into readings with the intention of, I want this to fix my bad mood today. I want this to make me feel better about myself as a whole. That's not what we're there for. We're there for a client. We're there for the person receiving the message. If we're giving a reading to ourselves, that's quite different. It still applies, but slightly different. Because if we are giving a reading to ourselves and we already really don't like ourselves, there may be some messages coming through if we give ourselves a card reading, etc., that we may ignore because we're so biased against ourselves, instead of being open to possibilities. Self-confidence and self-love. It really helped me with my readings. My readings got deeper. They got more heart-centered because I wasn't afraid to go there. And my mentor told me, do your readings from the heart center, from the heart chakra. And if there's something going on there, if you feel uncomfortable with that, that means there's some work there to do. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your inner child. Let's talk about your heart chakra, how you feel hurt when certain people say certain things to you. Let's talk about owning your triggers. And so when I started doing that, and I still have more work to do, it's never ending. It's always going to be work to do. When I started doing it, though, it was not easy. And I thought, what does this have to do with doing readings? Absolutely nothing. But then I realized that the easier it got for me to love myself proactively, the easier it became, the easier it got to receive messages from the heart rather than from the head. Because from the head, it was all about, let me impress them. Let me get this symbol. This symbol, what does it mean? Let me try to think about what this symbol means instead of just pausing and thinking, what do I feel right now in my heart? What messages am I feeling? What symbols? If I don't know what this symbol means, let me feel what it means rather than try to think about it. And that took a lot of self-trust. And where does self-trust come from? Self-confidence and self-love. So I'm not saying in order for you to do a good reading, you have to love yourself completely. What I'm saying is it gets easier. It feels a little easier to give heart-centered messages when you trust your own heart to give those messages. And if you don't trust yourself or like yourself, how can you trust the body you're in to give the messages that it needs to? The energy body you're in to give the messages that it needs to? That was a very important lesson for me that has honestly changed my life. Between my mentor and my therapist, it really changed my life. And my readings, I love in a reading when Spirit says something and the person's like, oh my God, how did you know that? That's great. That's fun. But at the end of the day, if all I do is give those moments in a reading and that's it, the reading really has no purpose. I mean, it does. Maybe it does. I shouldn't say that. It lets the person know that, yes, their loved ones are around, but their loved ones have nothing to say to them. And all they have to say is, hey, you have my golden watch. Oh my God, I have my golden, I have your golden watch. Or, hey, I liked race cars. Oh my God, you love race cars. You're around me. That's great. They're around you. We know that. But what do they have to say? What healing messages do they have to share? And that is where the heart-centered work comes in. That's where the messages from the heart step in to do the healing for the client or for yourself. So to recap, the 3 things that could be blocking you tapping into your psychic abilities. Number 1, having a very dogmatic, strict approach to how to do all of this and really limiting yourself from possibility. Number 2, doing it because you just want to impress yourself or other people. And number 3, not working on your self-confidence, on loving yourself, on self-love. And these are all 3 things that sometimes are ongoing work, especially the last 2, not wanting to impress people, which could be related to people pleasing, which I definitely have a tendency to be a people pleaser. And number 3, the self-confidence, self-love. That is an everyday journey. That's probably a lifelong journey. It's not about being perfect at loving yourself. It's about getting closer and closer to loving yourself unconditionally. And when we love unconditionally, we're aligning ourselves with the essence of our soul and also aligning ourselves with what spirit is. Spirit is love unconditional. So we're aligning more closely with that energy. Let me know if you've ever had or ever struggled with a block in your psychic ability or psychic development and what it was for you. You can email me at juan@juanfranciscospirit.com. You can DM me on Instagram. And I have some exciting things coming up. I have 2 exciting interviews coming up in the next few months. And I also was just interviewed by Will Fisher on Queerly Beloved. And I had such a wonderful time. Will actually asked me to do a reading for them and a mediumship reading. And I was nervous, not going to lie. But I told myself? I said, you're not there to impress Will or anyone listening to the podcast. Just do it. Just be open. And it ended up being a very wonderful experience to do a reading for Will. So I can't wait for you all to hear it. And I'll definitely share when that episode on Queerly Beloved is published and up. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you on the next episode. Hey, are you liking the supernatural and self-empowerment talk? Then follow the podcast and please leave a review. If you want me to talk about a specific subject on the podcast or you have a question for the podcast, go to juanfranciscospirit.com and go to my contact page and submit that question.